Welcome, Rick, and thanks for joining us. It's great to have AWS join the FinOps Foundation in 2023. We look forward to working together to help further the practice of FinOps. Rick, what specifically excites you about collaborating with the FinOps community?
That's a tough question. What doesn't excite me? The FinOps community is so vibrant and engaging. We wanted to get more of our product managers in front of the FinOps practitioners to have deep conversations about the products we build, how we build them, what our roadmaps are, how we think about the use cases. Just getting together with that FinOps community and working together on these problems, we think we can go faster. We think it's a great avenue and opportunity for stronger feedback from subject matter experts and power users in the broader FinOps community that work with and use our tools on a daily basis.
You've held a few roles in the FinOps space, but generally all of them pretty close to optimization. Just quickly, tell us about your current role and team at AWS.
So currently, I lead the product management team for all of the optimization tooling. That includes compute optimizer, reservation, purchase recommendations, savings plan purchase recommendations, savings plan purchase, and then also the new Cost Optimization Hub, which just came out in November at reInvent. Essentially, most anytime you're seeing a recommendation to save money or manage costs related to, a recommendation to reconfigure something, that's probably coming from my team.
So when we think about optimization, I guess two clear topics of rate and usage come forward. This one's an area, I guess, of hot debate or maybe some confusion, bit of information overload, all of which often lead to inaction. How do you think about rate and usage optimization?
I think the broader industry has kind of thought of these as two separate things for a really long time. It sort of makes sense because I think the finance-focused people are really focused in on rate optimization. The engineers and architects are focused on usage optimization. And so they kind of have like this natural bifurcation or wall between them. It's my intention and goal to like meld those together a little bit and bring them closer together because they impact each other pretty dramatically. If you have a bunch of reservations all over your environment, it's pretty difficult to right size. If you right size everything, you might move things out of different discounts or areas with different spend capabilities or spend rates and things like that. So there's this natural conflict between usage optimization and rate optimization that it can make people slow down for sure because you're a little bit risk averse, especially when it comes to cost. Anything you do may lead to very significant cost increases that you want to avoid. So it's typically the case where we see companies being a little too cautious here because there's a lot of extra savings they're leaving on the table. But if you do them together, they multiply the savings amount. And so the power combined kind of a thing is really powerful because when you do size everything correctly and you've got everything configured to the most optimal capacity values, like instance sizes or using auto scaling, things like that, or turning workloads on and off nights and weekends, and then you apply discounts on top of that, whether that's savings plans, RIs, or hopefully a combination of the both, you get the savings capability and result of usage optimization and rate optimization together, and that multiplies. And so say on average, companies are hitting 40+% discount, total discount on rate optimization. Well, what if you get another 30+% discount because you're just configuring things more economically and focused on performance and not over provisioning? Those savings percentages multiply together. And that's a really important concept that a lot of organizations are really focused on one or the other. And rarely do we see both working together for that full potential outcome of optimization. So it still feels like we're kind of early on in the optimization industry, even though, we've been working on this for myself like a decade now. We're still not there yet. So there's a lot of maturity value for us to go get.
Cool.
Yeah, the whole effective savings rate conversation is interesting to me. And I think a lot of third parties are focusing on it. And I think that that's fine, but it really doesn't help the usage optimization story. And I don't want people to lock on it as the ultimate KPI for optimization, because if you go shut off a bunch of idle resources, it will hurt your effective savings rate, but your total bill will go down. So effective savings rate is not the end all be all KPI for cost efficiency. It just isn't. And I don't want people to get stuck on effective savings rate. I think it's a good KPI. I think it's a better KPI than ones we've had in the past in our industry. But I think it should come in conjunction with other usage-based KPIs like, 30-day rolling average CPU or cost per core average, or, like there are other usage-based metrics we can use to sort of balance the spend versus the actual capacity you're getting for your spend. And so I just don't want people to just laser focus on ESR only.
Part of that hot debate is this story of like optimize everything first and then think about commitments, which logically makes sense, but it rarely leads to the best outcomes due to the time it takes organizations to optimize their usage, which delays that opportunity for those discounts to gain that you can gain from the commitments. In your experience, how should people be thinking about usage and rate optimization, especially in those early throes of building up this sort of program?
In like this perfect ideal fairy tale world, you're going to do usage optimization first. Everything's going to be sized perfectly. And then you go down a path of the maximizing most highest percent discount type of discount models, like 3-year all upfront RIs, or, like the highest discount percent you can achieve. But the reality is somewhere in between where.
What are some of those tips and tricks that help retain that compatibility with each other, add some flexibility to rate optimization efforts, and keep that door open for that usage optimization?
So there's a few different answers to this one. I think like the 100 level answer is just use savings plans. Savings plans by their nature are more flexible right out of the box, where you're not blocked from resizing to different instance families, or changing your architecture, things like that. It covers more than just EC2 VM instances. So that's the 100 level answer. The 200 or 300 level answer is mix and match. And what I mean by that is, buy RIs for workloads will never change. Say they are locked to a certain instance size or family, say there's third-party software requirements for a very specific instance size and family. Great. That's a great candidate for a 3-year all upfront RI with the maximum discount amount. But then you can still add a savings plan for the other resources that are not in that situation. So if you mix and match different discount types, you can retain a fair amount of flexibility while still maximizing your discount you're getting from rate optimization. And so, again, this requires a little bit more complexity because you have to sort of map out what resources make more sense for RIs versus savings plans, and so on and so forth.
You've mentioned right sizing a couple of times. Can you provide your thoughts on what are the best places to get started with right sizing?
I would say that there's a few different good starting areas. I would say that it can depend on what you're interested in doing. The most common one I see is idle detection. We see companies that are just saying, hey, I just want to understand and clean up all of the resources that are sitting there not doing anything anymore. Whether people switched jobs or projects kind of got shuttered and nobody went back and cleaned up the resources, unattached storage devices that the instance no longer exists and the storage device is still there. There's a lot of those kind of cleanup activities that are kind of low risk, low hanging fruit. There's another one though that I really like, and that's EBS optimization. And that's where you're right sizing your storage devices. The reason why I like that one is because there's no downtime. So you can go and do like all of your GP2 to GP3 migrations. No application will actually take any downtime. No customer will even notice a lot of times. And the really fun thing about GP2 to GP3 is 20% cheaper per gig. So you just get like a flat 20% discount on your spend overall. But then the minimum IOPS capacity from GP2 is 500 and in GP3 is 3000. So you get like this baseline uplift of IOPS and performance capacity out of all of your volumes overnight, like instantly, as soon as you make this change. And so you can go do something like a bulk execution of GP2 to GP3 or any other EBS volume right size recommendations you see in a product like Compute Optimizer. And so that's another really great way for organizations to sort of dip their toe in the water on what it takes to execute, either that's like building an execution engine or process or pipeline for taking right sizing recommendations, or just sort of getting comfortable with helping engineers understand that executing right size is something we're going to be doing from now on. And we're going to test the waters with sort of a low risk, non-disruptive recommendation. And if that goes well and everything checks out, hey, we're going to go on and we're going to start doing EC2 right sizing in the future, or auto scaling group configuration, or Lambda, right? We're going to start going and doing more advanced right sizing recommendations and execution. But you have to bring the engineers along with you in that conversation. And so starting with the low risk ones where there's not really a whole lot of argument that it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And it sort of gets everybody warmed up to the idea that this is how we want to operate in the cloud in the future.
So when I started FinOps, there was really no tooling for usage optimization. But you fast forward through to today, your team at AWS has been releasing some really helpful features to assist FinOps practitioners in optimizing their cloud. Catch us up on what's available today for your customer.
That's a great question. Okay, so we have Compute Optimizer. Compute Optimizer gives you right sizing recommendations. And actually, more recently, it has license recommendations now as well. So it's looking at the configuration and utilization of EC2, Lambda, ECS on Fargate, EBS, and then SQL license recommendations as well. And also a recent addition is GPU right sizing, which is really cool. And that's kind of an important area right now because all of the use and expense of running GPU instances to do things like large language model training and everything. We want to closely manage and optimize your investments in the AI space too. So Compute Optimizer has all of these recommendations to help you configure your resources correctly for the most optimal spend amount, but first and foremost, the best performance. So that's in like the right size utilization, usage optimization space. For rate optimization, we have reservations, we have savings plans, we have the recommendation products that take a look at and analyze all the past usage and then provide a recommendation that's fairly conservative and leaves some headroom in case utilization goes down or app reflexes some more, but also gives you like a very high ROI sort of recommendation to make those commitments and purchases in the future to maximize your spend. And then we also have the Cost Optimization Hub. It's a pretty recent product. We launched it at reInvent. And what it does is it takes all of those different products and the recommendations they give and pulls them all together into a single dashboard. And that's important because in the past, if you tried to make your own dashboard and you pulled recommendations from all these different products together, the savings amount you would see would oftentimes be higher than your spend amount because you can't just add the savings from right sizing and idle and reservations and savings plans because they don't add up together. Because if you delete something from an idle recommendation, you can't reserve it, you can't right size it, it's gone. And so the amount of savings you get from all these recommendations in Cost Optimization Hub is deduplicated for you. So what happens is if there is an idle recommendation, it will remove the savings from a recommendation to buy an RI or to right size. And so it deduplicates all of the savings amounts across all those products and presents you a single list view of recommendations that you can filter and sort or kind of manipulate however you see fit, depending on which optimization methods your company is ready to go after. And so you have kind of a customized dashboard that shows you the total potential savings based on the recommendations you're interested in taking. And it will, and that's an area we're going to keep investing in. And we're excited about the future of the Cost Optimization Hub. So those are some of the AWS provided tools to help get you on your way.
Trust in the quality of recommendations is key to getting engineers to take actions on right sizing. Could you give us a little deeper insight on how your right sizing engine works?
Yeah, I love talking about this because customers will often reach out to us to sit down and have a conversation about Compute Optimizer recommendations because the FinOps team will take the recommendations, they'll go to the engineering organization, they'll say, hey, take a look at these recommendations. And the engineering team is like, well, you can't tell me I sized wrong. And then you have this cultural conversation where it's difficult to take a recommendation product and results and go to an engineering team and kind of say, hey, you sized wrong. People don't take that well. so it's really important to us that we constantly improve and evolve our recommendations for accuracy. I think it's probably the most important thing we do day in and day out is focus on accuracy and trust with our customers. We launched at reInvent the ability to tune and adjust the recommendations. So engineering teams can kind of say, okay, I want more buffer, or I want less buffer, or I want more sensitivity or less. So that kind of gets rid of a lot of the complaints on the actual science and math behind how a recommendation is generated. But there's another element too that doesn't get talked about too much, which is all of the benchmarking data that goes into the product behind the scenes. And we collaborate with the ECT organization as well. Whenever new instance families are built and launched, they'll have new processor models that come out that have an X% increase in performance. For example, like the M7A. the new AMD Genoa processor comes out. It's a pretty significant step forward in processing power and speed and all of that stuff. So what we do is we take the benchmarking values, the SpecInt 2017 kind of open source benchmark data, we validate it with our own benchmark data, and we come up with sort of this back end intelligence around the performance differences between all these processors. And so when you see a right size recommendation, our engine, our machine learning engine, is actually doing a million calculations to figure out, based on the new performance of this new recommended processor, what's your utilization going to look like after you make this recommended change? So it's cool because your applications will run faster because they're on actually individually faster CPUs. And then we reduce the core count at the same time. And so you get the benefit of modernization and the benefit of right sizing together in the same recommendation output. And that's one thing that, like, when a company says, hey, like, we see some of these recommendations, why are you moving us to this family? What's the result? The answer is because we're looking at the performance of every single individual CPU model that's out there to choose from. And we're trying to calculate which one has the highest performance for this workload that you're running at the lowest possible cost. And so that's the result. That's the output of the recommendation engine you're getting from Compute Optimizer. And it's important that when we work with engineering teams, we explain we're not just trying to cut cost. That's actually not the intent of the product at all. The intent of the product is to maximize performance. And we just happen to do that without wasting money. So we find the absolute best performance and best performant instance for you. And it just so happens we don't add an extra 8 CPUs on top of that. We don't double the capacity. So we're looking for the best performance without using unnecessary money to do so.
One of the important concepts in FinOps is putting data in the path of the engineer. How do you see your customers using the insights you generate and gets them into the path of the engineer to reduce the effort and better enable customers to drive optimizations?
So one of the sort of core principles when we build products at AWS is that everything we build is available via API. So you can grab Compute Optimizer recommendations, reservation recommendations, savings plan recommendations, any of these sort of results via API calls. And a lot of our biggest customers, a lot of folks that we work with in the FinOps Foundation, they build their own dashboards. And adding in business unit context or baking in their unit economics theory, and then marrying and joining this data together to really look at an organizational view of how to manage cost and optimize is really cool. And because every single one of our products is built on public APIs, the data we're using and the results we're publishing are there for everybody to see, to use, to consume. So we sort of build our products like out in the open. And that's our intent, is that all of that underlying data, we tell you, hey, we get this from CloudWatch. Here's the namespaces we get it from. Here's the data sources we're using and passing through our machine learning models. Here's the results of those recommendations. Here's the finding reason code our models came up with. And so by publishing and giving all of that data and information, our intent is to not just be transparent with how our product works and the benefit you can get out of it, but this allows you to have access to that underlying data if you need to make changes or adjustments or look at it in different ways, whether you need to look at it by tag or organizational unit or whatever construct you're using. Maybe you're using an account-based structure where you're doing one application per account. And so by building all of this on top of APIs, we're essentially giving everybody access to that data. And there's no charge for the ACO APIs, the Compute Optimizer APIs, right? So this is essentially free. So go use it. So if you have very specialized use cases, we invite you to do that. You do not need to be using Console to get the best value out of our products.
If you could teach your customers one thing so they're better positioned to use your tools in the best of its ability, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say turn on memory data, and I'll walk you through why. So Compute Optimizer gives right sizing recommendations for everybody. A lot of companies aren't ready to take right sizing recommendations. If everybody knew how much money there was to save with right sizing, I think there might be a little bit of a different public belief about right sizing. So one of the things you'll notice with Compute Optimizer, if you dig into it, is that the recommendations are pretty safe. And if you don't have memory data enabled, either via CloudWatch or a feature we launched last year, third-party metric ingestion from different product APM products, performance products like Dynatrace, Datadog, New Relic, and Stana. If you grab memory data from those products or from CloudWatch and put them into Compute Optimizer, the amount of savings that the product shows you is drastically improved. And that's because if we don't have memory data, we won't recommend a downsize recommendation that lowers your memory capacity. What that means is Compute Optimizer is, without memory data, really limited in the number of instances it can look at and evaluate to recommend. So sometimes customers are saying like, hey, how come that recommendation is not moving CPU utilization much higher? And oftentimes the answer is, well, if you don't have memory data, it really can't go lower because say you're on a 32 gig instance, it's only looking at other 32 gig memory instances to move to if you don't have memory data. So when you add memory data, that constraint is removed. Compute Optimizer will look at your memory utilization and it'll evaluate all of the instance sizes available to say which of these can fit the memory utilization you have. So if you're only using like 12 gigs, it'll recommend a 16 gig instance, for example. And so when you add that memory data, that number, the potential savings number you see from right sizing will multiply many times over. And if you want more traction on right sizing initiatives, if you want more attention from your leadership on like, hey, let's put a program together on this, all you have to do is go take a few accounts, go turn on the CloudWatch agent. There's scripts out there to do it. It's not terribly hard. Go turn it on, watch the savings number balloon out of control on potential savings, and go show that to leadership and say, hey, the average savings percent when we turn on memory is this. It's 3-4 times higher. If we did this across our whole environment, the potential savings is, and then you have a number that'll make executives' eyes pop out. And so it's a great way to grow the influence and the focus on taking usage optimization more seriously, because a lot of organizations are focused totally on rate optimization, and there's probably this lack of knowledge about the potential savings of both together and, of course, of usage optimization by itself. So go enable memory metrics, go turn it on, go look at the savings rates and the amounts that you could potentially save once you have fully developed rightsize recommendations that account for memory. And I promise you, eyes will pop out and people will take rightsizing far more seriously.
Yeah, I used to always say that if you can half the size of the instance, you half your bill. And I guess you said something that was really important there, which is to watch that metric change as you add that extra data to Compute Optimizer. And I guess you don't have to get memory stats on everything in order for that metric to change, and you could use that as an influence to get the rest of your teams to potentially get the memory stats turned on as well. So the FinOps community always loves to know what's next, and I guess without breaking any of your NDAs, can you share something that the community should be watching out for?
That's a good question. So we just launched something yesterday. We actually didn't do a what's new post for it. It's an improvement we just wanted to do. When you try to add a savings plan to your cart and then click purchase, we now will throw a warning up there if you don't have any matching usage for, say, an instance savings plan in a certain region or family. It's cool because we already had the machine learning algorithms to build the recommendations. And so now what we're doing is we're just cross-referencing the recommendation. And if you do not have a recommendation for a certain family or region, we'll throw the warning up to hopefully make sure that you're not doing an oopsie, accidentally bought a savings plan in the wrong region, right? Like we just want to make that a great experience and make sure nobody has this sort of nightmarish, I can't go to sleep because I don't know, I accidentally spent $1 million on a savings plan that didn't make sense. What do I do? And I have to cut a ticket and wait and interact with support to go get it reversed. That's a sort of a frantic and frustrating experience. We just launched that. But looking more forward, we talked about Cost Optimization Hub. I would watch that area closely. It's a new console page that's at the bottom of that screen, you're going to see the total potential savings that the tool is showing you from all the different recommendation products. And then it shows you what percentage of your total spend is potential savings. It's kind of a neat KPI. There's a lot of things we can do with that data. There's a lot of things you can do with that data by using API calls to build your own dashboards, but we love building things for our customers so they don't have to go build it themselves. So we're going to keep focusing on that area. We talked about the visibility problem of executives maybe not knowing how much potential savings there is in their environment. So we're going to keep adding and investing in areas to help grow visibility of these areas, and then make sure that you can successfully use the products we deliver to go achieve that savings. So like when I measure our own success with our products, like we're tracking essentially like how many customers are taking the recommendations. We're growing that number pretty tremendously, and it's a big focus area for us. So you're going to see a investment by AWS in continuing to help customers save money, understand the costs and the visibility. I look back at 2023 and we had a great year. The Cur 2.0 exports, I would pay close attention to that and see how that develops over the next year. The new Cost Explorer capabilities with 14 months of look back and hourly granularity. We've had just huge amounts of customer feedback on how this solves some pretty big use cases. It's going to be hard to top 2023, but we're going to try. And we're gonna do everything we can to make 2024 an even bigger launch year for us, and with new capabilities and experiences. So we're excited to do that, and we're really excited to see you all at FinOps X as well. And we're gonna bring a lot of folks. So I've been pushing JR for a long time. How many tickets can we get? Like, we want to all come. Everybody wants to have conversations with our FinOps customers and friends, and continue to develop these relationships so we can sit down and listen and learn and become students of the pain of our customers, so we can go convert that into value and products and capabilities.
It's really awesome to hang out and hear your expertise. The community really benefits from these types of insights.
Thanks, Mike.
Cool.
Stay tuned for more insights and perspectives on where FinOps is heading next. Thanks for your support.